Hello, I'm Joyce Woodworth. Welcome to the Spirit of Winona. Today's the big day of the Grand Excursion for Winona, Minnesota. 3 days ago, 7 boats left the Quad Cities to journey up the Mississippi River in a reenactment of the original Grand Excursion of 1854. The celebration bell is just arriving and will soon be disembarking right here on our levee, and the festivities are about to begin. We're going to take this once in every third lifetime opportunity to learn the history of the original Grand Excursion, how this excursion compares, and experience some of the terrific events involved in Winona's own celebration. The Celebration Bell is the largest excursion boat for a day trip on the river with a capacity for 800 passengers.
Are you the captain? There's all kinds
Good
of
parking job, Captain.
Welcome to Winona. Have a good time.
You look absolutely beautiful. Tell me where you're from.
I'm Alaska.
Okay.
We just came for the day trip.
Okay, and you dressed for the occasion, which is exciting. How's it been on the Celebration Bell for you?
Oh, it was wonderful. It's a good meal.
Do you know some of the history of the original Grand Excursion?
Well, we've learned some on the trip. Actually, it was very informative. They talked to us, and we saw a slideshow about your city. So we know more now than when we got on board.
Tell me what it feels like to you, what it would have felt like way back in 1854 if you had taken the Grand Excursion dressed just like this.
I'm sure we would have been rich if we would have been on the Grand Excursion. Fortunately, nowadays it's more affordable for us.
But we went to La Crosse last night with our motorhome and stayed over there and got on today and came down.
Are you getting off here or are you going up to St. Paul?
No, we're getting off here. Our car is here, and then we go back to La Crosse and get the motorhome. So,
what's it been like on the Celebration Bell?
Well, it's our first one, and we had a very good time. It's very nice, very, relaxing.
I had fun because we got to go to the gift shop.
Okay. What did you do on the boat?
Walk around.
So how did you like the ride on the boat?
Good.
What did you do?
Eat breakfast.
What did they serve you?
Eggs. I got ding it, you duck on a bike.
My name is Captain Scott Shadler, one of the captains aboard the Celebration Bell.
Okay, now I understand that you're one of the owners of this bell.
Yes, my father started the company in 1984, and then I graduated out of Winona State in 93, and I bought into the business and taken it over.
Fabulous. So normally, where do you work out of?
Moline, Illinois. It's about 250 miles south of here.
Is it generally a day boat or is it an overnight boat?
We do all-day cruises, 100-mile all-day cruises, as well as lunch, sightseeing, and dinner cruises.
Okay. Now tell me about this particular excursion. I understand that you're one of the only people that has ridden from Rock Island up to Winona.
Yes, there's 4 of us that made the whole trip so far, and we just came out of La Crosse this morning. Then we got 3 more trips yet out of Winona than on the Pepin.
Okay. And what's it like? Can you feel something like what the people felt in 1854?
Oh, it is wonderful. I cannot believe every small town, big town we go through, just hundreds of people, bands playing, I mean, people waving, honking horns. I mean, it's really exciting. It's nothing like we see any other time.
I'm a boat hostess, and there are 14 of us all together, and amongst the 5 of the showboats, Mississippi Queen and the Delta Queen, they have their hosts already. And we are volunteers. And we're going all the way to St. Paul. There on the Celebration Bell, since we are the largest showboat, we have 4 hostesses, and the others generally have 2.
Now, are there sleeping quarters for all of you?
Not on the boats, no. We've been provided food and lodging. So, and if it's a bit of a jaunt, then we get a shuttle.
I'm Bob Taunt, local historian from La Crosse. It's just been a great day for steamboating. The river's been nice and calm, and here we are recreating the Grand Excursion of 1854.
Could you really put yourself in the place of the travelers from 1854?
Yes, I think so. As we came upriver, you know, the beautiful bluff country and the wide open river. And, of course, we were telling stories as we went along about the 1854 expedition, and it took you back. They had a very luxurious time on board. The meals were just wonderful. One fellow reported they had oyster and lobsters every day. So the food was excellent. They had a lot of partying on board, a lot of imbibing of a strong, alcohol. Ardent corrective, they called it in those days.
Tell me what they might have seen on the banks of the shore as they came through this area.
Lots of trees. In 1854, there was not a whole lot on the upper river, and that's why they had the excursion, was to publicize the beauty of the area. The writers of many of the newspapers that were on board described the beautiful country, the bluffs and the wide valleys, and the good possibility of agriculture and building cities and towns here. And that's what attracted a lot of people to this area. So the Grand Excursion was a great publicity tour, and it worked. We're all here.
The original Grand Excursion was launched in June of 1854. 1,000 guests of the railroad arrived in Chicago from all over the East Coast to travel on the recently completed track between Chicago and Rock Island, Illinois, the last link needed to connect the Atlantic Ocean to the Mississippi River. The owners of the railroad paid for 43 journalists and a number of scientists, clerics, civic leaders, financiers, and politicians, including the former President Millard Fillmore, to travel the upper part of the continent's longest river, the Mississippi, to see the beauty and potential of this newly acquired territory. The event was orchestrated to provide business for the railroad. By seeing the potential of the new land, more stocks and bonds would be purchased in the railroad, and their grand goal of reaching the Pacific coast with more track would be achieved. Prior to this time, the Dakota or Sioux Indians lived on this land in peaceful, serene encampments. They used the land for hunting and fishing. In 1852, they were pressured into signing over their land to the government, making way for the European settlers. The Grand Excursion was meant to introduce the rest of the nation to a region rich in resources and ready now for settlement. The 1,000 guests of the railroad got off the train in Rock Island and were met by 6 steamboats, the Galena, the Golden Era, the G.W. Sparhawk, the Lady Franklin, the Jenny Lind, and the fastest of them all, the War Eagle. In the commotion of boarding, they realized they were way overbooked, and only 800 actually made the trip. The staterooms were simple and not enough to go around, so some of the male passengers slept on the floor of the elegant dining rooms. The captains of the 5 steamboats competed with one another to serve the best food and provide the best service, and the passengers, despite the discomfort of the sleeping arrangements, had a wonderful time as they glimpsed upon the beauty of the land surrounding the Mississippi for the first time. The 43 newspaper correspondents later spread the word that the scenery of the upper Mississippi was spectacular and the opportunities for development were endless. The boats left the shores of Rock Island and stopped in Davenport, Galena, and Dubuque. There, the Jenny Lind turned around and the 5 faster steamboats continued north. From here, one of the writers noted the bluffs grew more bold and the scenery more enchanting. The next stop was in La Crosse, which had a population of 745 people. They also stopped along the way to pick up firewood and drop off the mailbag. They didn't stop at the little village of Winona. Judging from the only picture we have of that year, it didn't look like a worthwhile visit. They continued on to their destination of St. Paul, the territorial capital of Minnesota. They were not met with much fanfare, however, because they arrived 1 day earlier than expected. But they all managed to disembark successfully and find enough horses and carriages to take them to the final symbol of the trip's greatness, St. Anthony's Falls. Here, some were disappointed that the falls did not compare to the height of Niagara Falls, and some celebrated the furthest point reached on the Grand Excursion. Another brought a bottle of water from the Atlantic Ocean to symbolically pour in the Mississippi and join the two in national unity. Today, the raging falls have been tamed by a dam, and the surroundings, now in the heart of Minneapolis, symbolically prove that the original Grand Excursion served its purpose. It opened trade between the river and the rest of the world. The spirit of the Mississippi caught on after the excursionists returned and reported on its potential. Tim Briza, the chairman in Winona for the 2004 event, talks to us about the importance of the new Grand Excursion.
In this Grand Excursion, we have 4 states as we did then, but there are 55 communities that are partaking in this celebration. And it's a very complex affair to recreate this. This is an event that has not been tried ever before, that to my knowledge, where you have 55 communities in 4 states that get together to celebrate a single event, and they all do it independently.
So they're coming up the Mississippi, up to St. Paul. Now it's going to be so different. How many people are coming, and what do you think they're going to see?
We're talking about over 50,000 people that have an opportunity to ride on one of the boats in this flotilla that's coming up the river. Plus we have a steam engine that's coming up the Minnesota side of the river and going back down in the Wisconsin side. There's a bike rally. There's a great opportunity to participate within the Grand Excursion event itself, plus the opportunity of those 55 communities, each with their own individual celebration, of having a great time. And so there's an awful lot of participation, Joyce, in this Grand Excursion that we didn't have back in 1854.
The Grand Excursion event of 2004 began on June 25th in what is now known as the Quad Cities. 7 boats were part of the flotilla, with 1 or 2 stopping at 15 towns along the way. A few of the larger cities were able to accommodate more of the boats at one time on their levees. The largest boat involved with the excursion was the Mississippi Queen. It was one of 2 overnight boats traveling in the flotilla. The Mississippi Queen has 208 staterooms and can accommodate 422 passengers. It was built in 1976 and is the 2nd largest steamboat in existence. Many of the passengers can view the Mississippi shores from the privacy of their own verandas. At the back of the authentic steamboat is a glassed-in bar where the guests can view the 70-ton paddle wheel churning the waters of the Mississippi. On the top deck are 44 pipes, the largest calliope on the river, playing old river tunes for the enjoyment of people for miles around. Traveling right behind the Mississippi Queen through all the locks and dams between Rock Island, Illinois and St. Paul, Minnesota was the 2nd largest overnight steamboat and the oldest boat in the flotilla. The Delta Queen is an antique on the river. She was built in 1926 and is an authentic steam stern wheeler. She is truly a jewel on the river, and the people on board can feel just like they are living in the Victorian times because of the elegant decor. However, not quite like they felt in 1854, because there was not one steamboat from the original excursion quite as grand as the Delta Queen. Her 44-ton paddle wheel provides all the power for this majestic boat, which provides passage for 174 guests. Those traveling on her can expect a quiet, relaxing, nostalgic cruise on the Mississippi. The Mississippi Queen and the Delta Queen both pass the shores of the Winona Levee several times every summer. The newest boat in the Grand Excursion, the Spirit of Peoria, has not been seen from the shores of Winona before. She's a beautiful little steamboat painted red, white, and blue and looks like a tiered wedding cake trimmed in Victorian gingerbread. She usually travels on the Illinois River, where she is operated as a dayboat, accommodating 409 passengers. She was launched in 1988, and even though she is called a steamboat, she is not powered by steam. She has 2 locomotive electric motors powered by 2 Caterpillar engines, and she sure is pretty. Another pretty little steamboat in the excursion is docked in La Crosse, Wisconsin. The Julia Bell Swain is almost the same size as the Spirit of Peoria. We see her occasionally pass our shores as she chugs by on a dinner or lunch cruise. She's a steam-powered vessel built in 1971 in Dubuque, Iowa, and the only steam-powered boat stationed on the upper Mississippi River. In fact, she is one of only 5 authentic steam-powered boats on the Mississippi. Coming up alongside the Julia Bell Swain is the Anson Northrop, which also made the trip from Rock Island to St. Paul. This excursion boat does not have the smokestacks, which generally signify steamboat, because it is stationed in the St. Paul Harbor and has to be kept at a height under 22 feet to fit under the bridges in that area of the river. Even the pilot house is squashed down on the second deck of the boat. It can, however, make its way through the first two locks of the Mississippi River and circle around at St. Anthony's Falls. It carries 360 passengers, but it can be coupled with the Betsy Northrup, a barge sometimes pushed by a tugboat, creating a huge party vessel for 710 people. The seventh boat in the Grand Excursion is the Harriet Bishop, named after St. Paul's first school teacher. Harriet Bishop fittingly arrived in St. Paul in 1847 and began a school in an abandoned blacksmith shop. She was a strong-willed person who made significant contributions in educating some of Minnesota's first students. The beautiful paddle boat is proud of its relationship with education. She was built in 1987 in Utica, Indiana. She is used in St. Paul for dinner trips and sightseeing cruises. She is licensed to carry 486 passengers and is one of the most charming boats on the river. These 7 steamboats traveled together for 7 days, passing through over 25 locks and dams and over 50 cities, all the way from the Quad Cities in Illinois and Iowa to St. Paul, Minnesota. They arrived at their destination on July 3rd on a cool and rainy day. Every city passed along the way celebrated the excursion in one way or another, and in St. Paul the festivities were plentiful. The mission of the Grand Excursion was accomplished. Not only did it reconnect us to a significant event in our history, but it will act as a catalyst for rediscovering the river's importance to the economy of the cities along its shores. Do you think Winona's going to change at all because of the Grand Excursion being here?
Absolutely. You know, as people come to our community, and it is literally our opportunity to showcase that community, they will come back for various different reasons. They'll come back to recreate. They will come back for another celebration. They will view our educational institutions and think that this is a good place to have their children come to school. There are people that will relocate here because of business opportunities. You know, we have a tremendous infrastructure and communications in our community. People will come back because they like the area and might want to retire here. This single day is probably a multi-million-dollar day for our community. That's the kind of money that will be generated, and that's why I take great pride in being a part of it. I like to showcase our community, and I like to be part of helping our community grow.
Now we'll have cider all the fall. I said I was going to the ball, where the duck chews tobacco and the goose drinks wine. The old hens cackle while the rooster keeps time. I'll rise and the rooster crows.
The Grand Excursion events in Winona were absolutely awesome and managed to showcase our community in the best way ever. Hi, Tom. Tell me where you're from.
Well, I grew up in western North Carolina.
Okay, so you're getting ready to go on.
Correct.
Okay, what do you think of Winona?
Oh, it's a beautiful little town. I love it. These hills around here kind of remind me of the mountains up in western North Carolina, the Smoky Mountain National Park, where I grew up.
I'm going back south where the sun shines hot, down where the sugar cane grows.
Well, Well, so far today, when I woke up in the morning, it was a beautiful, sunny, beautiful day, and what else could we ask for? I've looked forward to this day for months. I've hyped it up to everybody I knew, invited everybody I knew to come to this. It's a palette to be had here in Winona as far as the abundance of arts events in this town today, especially.
Who's come from California for the festivities. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Joyce.
How's it been for you?
It's been great. It's perfect. It's beautiful. Could you ask for a nicer day?
No, not really. No. So does it meet your expectations?
Yes, it does. And look at all the people. It looks like everybody came.
This has been Joyce Woodworth. Please join me again next week when we see the sights and sounds of the Grand Excursion events in Winona, Minnesota. Till then, enjoy the Spirit of Winona. Hello, this is Joyce Woodworth. Welcome to the Spirit of Winona and the second part of the Grand Excursion story. In last week's show, we watched as the Celebration Belle, one of 7 steamboats participating in the event, docked at Winona's levee. We learned the history of the original Grand Excursion in 1854, found out about the 2004 reenactment from the Quad Cities in Illinois and Iowa to St. Paul, Minnesota, and we saw some of the excitement of Winona's own celebration. Today we will join the community on June 30th, 2004 and see all the wonderful events of the day. I ran into a couple from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and welcome to Winona. Tell me what brings you here. Why are you following the excursion?
Well, actually, Watkins is one of the sponsors of the excursion, and we're in the Watkins business.
Gotcha. Okay. So what do you think of Winona?
Oh, it's a beautiful little town. Very interesting. Lots of old buildings, and it's just a beautiful city.
And I'm from Roanoke, Virginia, and I drove over to Quad Cities and have been going upriver ever since then, and we're going to go all the way up to the Twin Cities, see St. Anthony's Falls.
Great. So you didn't get on the boat at all? You just go and traveling by car?
Traveling by car.
Well, what do you think of Winona?
I haven't seen much, except it's about a 6-block walk from where I had to park.
I'm a freight train, mama, about to jump the tracks. I'm a freight train, mama, about to jump the tracks.
All the way down. Welcome to Winona. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you very
Everybody is talking about the Celebration Belle, and I keep telling them that they're all sold out, and it's too bad. You know, they have to get their tickets in early. And we're going to be on it tomorrow.
Are you going
on
tomorrow?
Oh, yes, all the way to Pepin.
the Celebration Bell arrived in Winona, Minnesota, a wagon train traveled from Rochester, Minnesota to Winona. A group of riders driven by horses, mules, and covered wagons rode into town in honor of Rochester's sesquicentennial. The ride tied in nicely with the Grand Excursion because it was meant to recreate the pioneers traveling from the East Coast by steamboat up the Mississippi and landing in Winona after the 1854 Grand Excursion, and at this point joining wagon trains that would take them to all parts of Minnesota, settling in places other than Winona, such as Rochester and beyond.
Come a knocking at the door, and my old Kentucky home. Good night. Weep no more, my lady. I'll weep no more today. Let us sing one song for the old Kentucky home, for the old Kentucky home far away.
Okay, 550. 550, yeah. All right. Thank you. Should I just take that one? Yeah, good deal to use the body just eat a body. You enjoy your afternoon. Yeah, you guys too.
And they're all made with fresh fruit or fruit juice that I juice, and they're made the old-fashioned way. In other words, it's the fruit, refined sugar, and pectin. That's it. No additives, no preservatives, no colorings, anything like that at all.
You want to hear him pick a guitar just a little bit? You want to see if he can run with it a little? Because he's like a racehorse, and I can see his foot start stomping, and I know he wants to get going, and so I have to give him that time or he'll drive me nuts. He starts bouncing the floor.
Who were those two guys 25 years ago that were on TV all the time? Smothers Brothers.
Oh, Dickie and Tommy.
Yeah, and who was their guitar picker? Just pick guitar. He did this song.
Maybe she hears the song, she might. He kind of reminds me of Tommy, kind of. He's like Tommy.
Kind of funky. Cool. Thank you.
Mutter, who's one of the directors of the Winona Convention and Visitors Bureau. Hi, Pat. Hi. Pat, this is a great gathering of Winona people. You got some great vendors. You got a lot of stuff going on here.
We have about 70 vendors that are here today, and they range everything from local to regional. We have food vendors, arts and craft vendors. We have local businesses in town. So we really have been very pleased with the reception that people wanted to come here today. Everything. It ranges from arts and crafts, farmers market selling food and bakery goods, and we have businesses such as Winona Canoe down here and Fastenal, and we just urge everybody to come down and enjoy this. It's a beautiful day, and we are thrilled with this great weather that we're having to celebrate this great occasion.
Hi. Found my pair. Yeah, I paid for 5 pieces for her and 5 pieces for him.
We've just had a great day today. The food has been fabulous. We had shakes. We're going to try an elk burger. We got some new hats. Show them your hats. Cool. Winona hats. And it's been fun seeing all the people get off the boat, and everyone's been so friendly, and just had a great day here.
Pat, tell me about some of your food booths. Are they mostly local vendors and local restaurants represented?
Yes, local restaurants are represented. We have a lot of actually just community organizations like Elks Club and some of the churches, and of course the Ambassador's Milkshake Wagon is here. We have things like pork on a stick and pork chops on a stick. And
Got it? Yeah, I think so. Thank you. Oh, there you are. All right. All right, come. Let's go find Mommy.
of course the good old baked potato person and kettle corn. And
I holler hot corn coming alive. Going in. Then step back. Once this thing is heated up, it'll do 4 pounds of popcorn every minute and a half. Okay, hot corn coming alive. Hot fresh kettle corn. We cook it fresh so you don't have to. Guaranteed to make you run faster, jump higher, see further, hear better, have brighter teeth, and fresher breath. Hot fresh kettle corn. And we have a hot kettle coming alive.
And funnel cakes, we can't leave out funnel cakes. And
to do these, the oil has to be just exactly the right temperature, and you can tell when you're frying if it's hot enough or if it's too cold. It needs to be just right so that the oil isn't absorbed into the funnel cake itself. These are the best funnel cakes in Minnesota.
Best funnel cakes in town.
You bet.
They are wonderful. There you go.
Cinnamon sugar.
Funnel cakes! Get your fresh, hot funnel cake! Delicious, nutritious, make you feel ambitious.
It's hot on the bottom, so okay. There's another one for your kids.
Thank you.
Okay. You want one too?
yeah. And we have chicken and buffalo burgers and everything that we can think of that Winona is, you know, any good fair and festival should have. So there's a lot of choices.
And I noticed you early this morning, you're still here. How is it going for you?
Oh, it's been just wonderful. Beautiful view. We sat by the river side of the levee and we saw Latch Island across, and it was beautiful. Beautiful to see the boat coming in, missed first one of the flotilla.
It's a beautiful day. It's just perfect. The sun is warm, but the air is nice too, and it's just great to see all the Winona people downtown.
Is the food pretty good?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Nathan. I'm from Australia. I've lived in Winona 6 years now.
Really? So what do you think of the Grand Excursion?
I love it. Good music, good time.
And how'd you learn how to pick like that?
I taught myself, just listening to all the old bluegrass players, Earl Scruggs, Ralph Stanley.
Excellent. It sounded great. Thanks. Tell me about yourself.
Hi, I'm Nick Lakin. I'm from Winona, not originally. Been here about 20 years now. So, advertising manager for United Building Centers. A little plug in there. But started playing the bones, 20 years ago. I started out scrimshawing Gaelic art on the bones, and learned to play them from a guy that actually makes the bones, the beef rib bones and stuff. So I've been playing for 20 years, and I saw this guy with the banjo. Says, "Hey, you know a good tune?" And he says, "Yeah, let's do it." So
you just met each other here at the Grand Excursion
5 minutes ago.
We're going around looking at the carvings and things and the boats and stuff.
I would definitely think the wood carvings are cool. I especially like the eagle and the turtle that guy carved. They're really good.
All right, great. How about you? What'd you like?
Getting my hair braided.
Oh, where is it? Let me see. Oh, pretty, very pretty.
I really like the bouncy stuff.
The bouncy stuff?
I like the obstacle course thing. I like the boat because it's really big, and one of my cousins and uncles, they're on it.
And thank you so much. You did a super job. Can you wave at the camera?
Yes, they are real knives. Yes, we have been cut. Yes, they are sharp. And no, we are not missing any fingers or toes. It's okay to applaud.
And the crowd goes wild.
We just dropped so that we can show you we can pick up.
Oh, and the wind just picked up for us too.
Okay, just are you guys ready for this?
That was good. We don't have to do that again.
Up and down. There we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are the Budabi brothers. This is my brother Eric.
And this is my brother Nick.
And we appreciate your participation.
What a beautiful town you have here. Winona, we're moving here. I love this place. What time is it, ladies and gentlemen? The winter nights are long and the northern winds are strong. The gray days can be quite a bummer. Here's what gets us through when there's snow on the barbecue. Dreams of the first bratwurst of summer. Now all our friends have called and our funds are finally full. A certain savory smoke is in the air. I'm following my nose where everybody goes. Straight to the first bratwurst of summer. Oh, let me hear you cheer. Sing out, don't you be a hummer. Everybody dance. Put on your polka pants. Raise your bottoms way up in the air. Ladies first, brought us on our going there. There's a tournament tonight, and buddy, I'm ready. Shining up my ball in my lucky shoes. I got a brand new shirt, and I'm sewing on Freddy. With my fingertip grip, I can't lose. I'm gonna rip it on road to with accordions. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs, we are Komano Kai, came from Kogota, which is the sister city of Winona. They came a long way. They are very pleased they can play here in Winona. Please listen to the heart of Japanese.
The name of song is Kosho Shukusai no Uta, which means the song of the festival.
Oh, of course. If they, you know what? I don't think they'll have me, though, to tell you the truth.
thing. This is rumba, a Cuban style, set to the samba orchestration.
About your experiences with the Grand Excursion, what made you come on this boat, and what you're thinking of it so far.
Well, I picked up a brochure someplace, and I thought, gee, that's a chance of a lifetime to do something like this. And so my friends, there are three couples, we all got together and thought we'd come to Winona because it's convenient and probably miss a lot of the traffic upriver. So that's why we're here. We love Winona. I love Winona.
I've been to Winona for many, many years, and what I'm really impressed is the volunteers. What you've really done here with all these volunteers, done a great, great, great job. They're friendly, courteous, and kind, and what a wonderful experience. Just a wonderful experience.
Been Joyce Woodworth on the top deck of the Celebration Bell. We've been truly enjoying the whole experience of the Grand Excursion. Winona's had everyone come out. We've had great food, great vendors, lots of fabulous entertainment and music. Please join me again next week. Till then, enjoy the Spirit of Winona.